I am your host again for tonight, Fahima Mohammed. I welcome you all watching from around the globe and wherever you're streaming from. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's an absolute pleasure to be having these shows. Sincere Community Services, SCS, is a
especially on this occasion of the 15th of Sha'ban. May Allah accept all of our a'mal, and may Allah give us the blessings and the bounties of being the occasion of the birth of the 12th Imam, Imam al-Mahdi. Ajalallahu ta'ala farajah.
Your screen, and we're going to be discussing the marriage and divorce issues of new Muslims. I know this comes up again and again, but it's really important to have different people speak about this so that we can take it and tackle it from different angles, because everybody has their own story. It doesn't matter even if you are divorced or not divorced or married or looking for marriage. I know, Aisha, you're quite young right now, but I know you have a lot of knowledge behind you, a lot of experience that you've had in the last few years, even though it's been you coming into Islam from a very young age, which I'm really interested to hear. So before I come on to you, Sheikh, I just want to hear a little bit about Aisha, and just tell me a little bit about yourself, and what are your thoughts about some of the issues around new Muslims facing marriage, especially?
Yes, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. I hope you can hear me and see me properly with the poor connection on my side, and I apologize for that. Alhamdulillah, I am 22 and I accepted Islam when I was 19, about 3 years ago. And so it's been a journey since then. I still live with my family and I'm not yet married, but the question of the day is absolutely relevant, as it would be to any single Muslim, and particularly new Muslims who are trying to assimilate their characteristics with their new adopted.
Absolutely. That is a really great introduction, and I'm really in awe at the fact that you're so young, yet you speak so beautifully. And I know even the audience haven't really heard you yet, but I have, and I'm really excited to hear more about it. So, Sheikh, when it comes to new Muslims, coming into Islam and wanting to get married, we do hear a lot of issues behind the fact that a lot of marriages only take place between their own cultures and communities, as well as, new Muslims are sort of like looked upon as in they've had a past and it's not really washed away and they are judged. I'm only talking about the negative. Of course, there are some really good stories out there, but we are here to address the challenges. Now, how would you advise new Muslims coming into Islam to firstly think about marriage and to sort of approach it with these kind of, Muslims that are existing and the problems that we have within our society when it comes to the culture clash? So how would you advise, a new Muslim looking for marriage in, the Muslim community?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. But it's a very pertinent question and a very important issue that is many a times brushed under the carpet and isn't given the exposure that it needs, because one of the things that we as an ummah forget is that there is a minority amongst all the various cultures that we embody. The various ethnicities and cultures and nationalities and skin colors, there is a minority that comprises of those reverts who come from those cultures which are traditionally not within the fold of Islam. And just as there are issues in the media today, and thankfully those issues are being raised, of racism and prejudice against other minority groups, we have to face up to those same challenges as well, where yes, many of us may be of color, but then there is a sense of racism, there is a sense of prejudice against those who are converting to the religion of Islam. Marriage is, of course, an important institute in Islam, mentioned time and time again in the Holy Quran. And what we want to do, I mean, the Quran gives the imperative, وَأَنْكِحُوا وَأَنْكِحُوا, establish or prepare the framework and facilitate marriage. And not just of your own children, but help your community as a whole. Mm-hmm. Get your children together and married together and create a society that is conducive to the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the teachings of the Quran. So there are two sides of the issue. There is a side that we have to deal with as the Ummah, as those who have taken Islam for granted. And there are those issues that need to be dealt with from the side of the actual revert who is entering into Islam and the challenges that he or she will face. And we have to deal with them from the different perspectives of our own personal individual responsibilities. For the one who is converting, Allah has graced you with this amazing blessing that you have realized the truth of the Quran, the truth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And yes, you will face difficulties from where you have come from, and also difficulties in the community where you are heading towards. And there will be a lack of understanding of where you're coming from, a lack of patience, and I think just being a part of that group. And we see that challenge being faced by a number of companions such as Salman al-Farsi. When people were sitting together and comparing each other's lineage, they were saying, I am from this particular tribe and that particular tribe. And when they got to Salman, he said, I am an Ajami, I am an Arab, we don't talk in this way, so who do I belong to? And the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, Salman, anta minna ahl al-bayt. You call yourself Salman al-Muhammadi. That is your tribe, that is your distinction. And truly, underneath all of that, whether we are Arab or Persian or subcontinental, Desi, or whatever background that we come from, at the end of the day, we have to try and be Muhammadi. And so for someone who enters into Islam, my advice is to be patient, that, don't judge the Muslims based on their actions, but truly, you've entered Islam because you saw Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his most immaculate character. And that is unfortunately not seen in many of the Muslims. But for the wider community, my advice is to listen to these issues. I've been given this platform to talk, but I believe that when we have these opportunities where we have sisters such as Aisha, who has changed her life in manners that we cannot understand, and we cannot fathom those challenges. Yeah. So I think we have to give her the podium and let her speak, and for us to figure out how to ease that transition into this life and to enable the marriage between reverts and born Muslims and any other issues that the reverts are facing.
Thank you so much, Sheikh. That was an amazing introduction and a real sort of eloquently said as to how we should perform and be, and so rightly so, that we need to give Aisha a chance to explain your perspective on this when entering into a marriage. What would be your advice to new Muslims coming in, Aisha?
I have to say that, again, Sheikh, thank you. And that was very eloquently said. And I think that if more Muslims, born Muslims, were able to really take the time to think about and grasp the amount of hardship that comes with accepting Islam later, at whatever point in your life, I think that they would have more respect for converts and try not to judge converts based on previous behaviors, but on who they're trying to be, becoming a part of the Ummah. For myself, I consider the challenge of getting married every single day, because at the end you have to balance whether you're going to marry someone who has huge cultural differences than you, who was born in a Muslim culture, or if you'd like to marry someone who converted to Islam and has their own set of immense challenges and hardships that they went through to get to that point. And I've even been in marriage conversations where a fellow convert told me that he doesn't want to marry a convert because he knows for himself how hard it is just to break those patterns once you become a Muslim, and he doesn't want to deal with another person dealing with that. To that, I would say that born Muslim or chosen Muslim, we're all dealing with those types of nafsi patterns and these bad habits. And I would just say that to anyone coming into Islam who's single, who's really concerned about wanting to assimilate and wants to get married for the sake of start trying to just completely change their life, get married to a Muslim and live in a Muslim household with a Muslim family, be patient, because these life changes take a long time to really sink in. And when you make those types of choices right away, it can have really long-lasting negative impacts if you're not careful.
Very true. I love what you've even highlighted with the example that you gave. I didn't even consider that actually about, converts, reverts themselves not wanting to marry reverts. So that's an angle I didn't even look at. And thank you for highlighting that. And yes, there's challenges within each perspective. Another thing that you mentioned, Aisha, which I would like the Sheikh to answer for me, when you mentioned about even coming into Islam, I know a lot of people that convert after they've chosen their partner, and then they convert for one likely would say it's convenience, right? I'm not here to judge. I don't know what's the intention, but what would be that? I mean, I know there is nothing wrong in taking on a partner and then choosing Islam. But at the same time, there's a lot more that is involved in a marriage when it comes to having your faith as well as having a partnership. So when you hear of stories that, I've met someone and now they're going to convert, it's sort of like they've converted, they understand the religion for a while, they know what it entails. Do you think there should be some sort of time, or is the lessons while marriage, newly, is something that can be, on par? What's your thoughts on this, Sheikh?
Well, just as someone who is born a Muslim is looking to marry to someone else born a Muslim, or a revert marrying a born Muslim, or a revert marrying a revert, it's all on a case-by-case basis. There is no single bullet or single one potion that'll suit everyone. So when a person is in this kind of relationship where they see someone and there is an idea that we give them time to convert and then we'll marry, it's on a case-by-case basis. Maybe that will come about into a very a fruit-giving relationship where this person truly understands Islam. And where it is more of a superficial superficial Islam, that is something that the person has to judge himself or herself. But the Islamic guidance given is that we should find someone who is going to be the father or the mother of, inshallah, if Allah is to give children, of my children. And to have a household, a family, to build a family that is based on the teachings of the Quran and the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that family unit will then be a unit within a wider community, a wider society. So it's not just about me and another person. There are other things I have to think about. And on that note, we see the teachings of the Holy Prophet and the Imams alayhimus salatu wassalam, that when someone comes to you and you are pleased with his deen, with his faith, with his religion, that this person is firm on Islam, this person hasn't accepted Islam for any ulterior motives, He hasn't, and no one really knows the intentions. But as long as you are radi, you are content, and you are pleased with the fact that the person is mutadayyin, he has truly taken on this religion as the haqq, as the truth, and you also are pleased with that person's akhlaq, his ethics, his morality, فَزَوِّجُوهُ, marry your daughter to him. Accept that marriage, because if you don't, and then they would mention the verse of the Quran, that if you do not do so, then there will be chaos and fitna and fasad in the earth, and a great fasadun kabir. These are important words that we have to bring into our mind, that when we are looking for a spouse for our children, that we go by these two characters, these two traits in the potential spouse. That we look at the religion and we look at the akhlaq.
Okay.
And if you can tick both of them, do not wait. Have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can never guarantee a good fate with any particular spouse, because you don't know what's in that spouse's mind. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So if you have tawakkul upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you go down a particular track, because there is a faith, you see faith there, you see Islam there, you see practice of Islam there, and you see good etiquettes, you see Islamic etiquettes, then go ahead, say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and go ahead. And that is the guidance that many of the Imams have given to their companions. And what we also have to understand is that we live in an ummah where most of us are born Muslims, but Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, all of his companions were what? They were reverts, they were converts. And in fact, later on, we have an example of Ali ibn Asbat, who goes and asks Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam that I cannot find a spouse for my daughter. And the words that I mentioned, as just seek someone, someone comes to you who has good akhlaq and he is religious, he has deen, he has faith, then accept it. Then that message was given to him, and that Ali ibn Asbat was a Christian convert. This was a couple of centuries later as well. People, Imams, if you look at the Imams of the month of Sha'ban, we celebrated Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam's birthday, his brother Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, and the son of Imam Hussein, Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. And we look at the different types of mothers that each of them had. We look at Imam al-Hussein. He had who as a mother as Sayyidah Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. Okay, not only a Sayyidah, but the mother of Sadat. Okay, she was at that nobility. And then after she passed away, her husband Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam married whom? Fatima al-Kalabiyya. Okay, so she was a lady of Arab descent, but she was not Bani Hashim, she was not from the Quraysh. But yet he sought someone who would be someone like Abbas. And then we go to the next Imam, Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, the fourth holy Imam. And we see that who was his mother. Okay, so that mother would have big shoes to fill, because the previous mother of the Imam is Sayyidah Zahra salamullah alayhi. So with the Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, we see that the mother was a Persian lady by the name of Shahrbanu or Shahzanan. There are a number of names recorded. And then we go one Imam to the next Imam, we see that their mothers are sometimes, they're called Al-Maghrabiyya, sometimes Al-Nubiyya, sometimes she is a Rumi, sometimes she is Al-Barbari. They're coming from a wide plethora of backgrounds. And that tells us that we shouldn't be afraid of different cultures, of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different types of food, different languages. And we should celebrate these differences and understand that what makes one of us better than the other is whoever is closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And
Definitely.
That is what we should all strive for.
No, absolutely. And it's really amazing that you've highlighted the history, because again, we sometimes forget our history in Islam, and it is derived upon what you've just suggested. And I think nowadays we're forgetting that, and that's why we're having these issues. So it's really important that you said that. I really appreciate that. Aisha, what's your thoughts on now when it comes to a little bit of, people that do get married, and unfortunately, especially the new Muslims that do get divorced? And a lot of the issues that I know personally that have come to me is because, they had lack of knowledge of the Islamic sort of culture, or they've been sort of mistreated because they were thought of as new Muslims not having some sort of insight as to how they need to be and behave, and they've lived in, marriages for many years. What are your thoughts on that? What are the issues that are raised when it comes to new Muslims and divorce?
That's a really important question that you're asking, because it's very multifaceted. There are people who, like I had mentioned before, want to come into Islam and immediately assimilate. So they rush into marriage and then often get divorced because, like I said, it's a huge change just to be a single person coming into Islam, and then trying to immediately adopt marriage with rules that you've never heard before. That's probably going to be too much, particularly for women who are coming from a more Western culture and having to assimilate to these different ideologies of gender roles. So I think that there's massive fear, I think, around, for example, myself, I came into Islam at very young, and everyone around me, all the sisters around me were telling me, do not immediately get married. Learn the deen, learn the fiqh of marriage first, because otherwise you're going to be vulnerable to people who would sell you their cultural values as being Islamic. And that is a huge concern for new Muslims who come in thinking that anybody who is Muslim is on the deen. Mm-hmm. That's not what we know. There are people who are Muslim by name who are practicing some watered down cultural Islam, not necessarily following precisely the Quran and Sunnah. And so those types of people, when they, subhanAllah, there's so many stories, people coming to me, men messaging me, telling me how to wear hijab, oh, you need to wear niqab. And then another day, niqab is not obligatory, don't wear it. And then, like, as though they have some motive to tell me what to do because I wasn't born Muslim, as though I can't think for myself. And, there's so many examples of this. And of course, any converted female will tell you that definitely lots of people will come to you and try to tell you how to act and what to do, which I can only speak for converts from Western countries like America, where I'm from. Our cultural upbringing is going to be in some ways diametrically opposing to Islamic values. And when we rush into marriage like that, we can be stifled right away. And actually lots of people leave Islam because they feel like it's so oppressive. They don't get the right knowledge before they jump into these situations. And then they start to associate their negative feelings about these Muslims as being Islamic. But no, there are people who are saying they're doing things for the sake of Islam, but of course we know that sometimes that is not from the Quran and Sunnah. So we have to have our own knowledge first before we are coming into this massive adjustment of marriage in Islam.
That's really powerful what you've said, and someone so young and brilliant, you are definitely blessed to actually not be under that sort of like ways of, being vulnerable, because you have got the knowledge to understand how it works. But yes, there are very many Muslims that come into Islam, especially as Muslim women, and they are very much taken advantage of because of the fact that they're not necessarily known to what is practiced, and, separating the culture as well as from the religion, and they can be manipulated into doing things for many years. And I have heard of stories like that personally myself, here on the show as well as outside privately. So that is a concern, and they are more prone to abuse, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, because or taken advantage of, because they're assumed that they don't know, and a lot of them do not know, and they just will believe that potential spouse as to this is how we have to live and this is what we have to do. So I think we don't really talk about this much. And we do need to obviously highlight this because it's important to safeguard and to protect, not just in marriage, but looking for marriage. And for those people that are coming into Islam to be aware that, look, our religion is beautiful, but like our Sheikh said, and like you said as well, that not everybody is, on that path. They have their own journey. We're not here to judge them either. But if we are having that knowledge first, and if new Muslims as well, take on that sort of education into Islam, then that would be their safeguard. Sheikh, when it comes to divorce of new Muslims, we have so many stories of abuse, of negligence, and taken advantage of. And at the end of the day, it is really sad that we have this over and over again. And there is not one place that any Muslim woman, new Muslim woman, can come to for advice, that they can come to where they're going to be taken seriously. Because I have searched and I have had women come to me, and it is such a shame, because especially when they are being abused and taken advantage of with maybe leaders, with maybe people that will not actually, because they actually look at somebody who is maybe on a platform speaking, and they believed. Because I've had these issues come to me, and I know that we're not raising this as a topic because no one wants to talk about it. But these are the issues. This is what's happening. We have Aisha here, even across the world, that's speaking the same thing, saying the same thing about new Muslim women that do not have a safe space to actually come and relay their issues and taken seriously, because they do come from a different faith and they are looked upon differently. And especially when it comes to Muslim women, new or not, these sort of issues are really still something that we need to tackle. What would be your advice? We've only got a couple of minutes left, and I really want to go to Aisha before the end. So what would be your advice to the ulama, to the leaders and the community quickly with regards to, making sure that our women are safe in the community and the ones that are coming in?
Unfortunately, there are these bad apples everywhere in every community. And I know of people who have been doing great work in trying to help people come together in marriage, as well as resolve their disputes, and if need be, then bring a marriage to an end through a divorce amicably. So it's somewhat of a sensitive issue, and I would just remind the leaders and those who are in such positions that they are able to deal with such situations, to truly look at the Islamic values when we await for the 12th Imam, the Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. We believe that he will come into this world to fill it with justice, and we have to be the ones to pave that way. And we cannot do so if we are abusing our position, if we are not acting in accordance to the teachings, the fiqhi teachings, as well as the spirit of Islam. And there are certain rules and laws that we must abide by. There are particular frameworks that we must abide by. And if we in any way start abusing that, for people to come to us to counsel, it's a huge responsibility that we have in our hands. So we must undertake those responsibilities in the best of ways and truly reflect the teachings of Islam. But for those who are in such predicaments and they want to find out where to go to, it is a matter of searching. I do not have any particular, I don't want to mention any organizations on air at this point, but I would advise that they search and look for the person who is, inshallah, trying their hardest to resolve your issues.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, absolutely. We do need to have a bit more sort of like clarity as to who are these organizations so we can speak about them and they can be easily available to victims of, you know, sort of manipulation, abuse, and all of these things that when it comes to divorce, especially for new Muslims, which we do not have. Aisha, I want to come to you. We've come to the end of the show. We've got a couple of minutes. I want to have your last thoughts on this topic. It's been an absolute pleasure so far, but you know, I couldn't leave without hearing your voice to sort of end the conversation.
Yes, I think that frankly we need to, because at the end of the day, these people who are going through these situations, these people who are seeking marriage, these people who are in poor marriages and in bad situations, it's qadar Allah. So we need to, at the end of the day, make dua that Allah will help these, help us to create better infrastructure within the ummah and to create more dialogue and conversation around these issues. People do not feel stigmatized to come out and say that they're having a problem in their marriage or that they're having a problem finding a house or that they feel that they're being judged before they even get a chance to get into a marriage. So I would say we need to pray that Allah helps reverts as well as born Muslims to create of understanding rather than choosing to focus on what makes us different.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. I really appreciate your time all the way from the USA. Thank you so much, Aisha. Inshallah, you have a lovely evening. And thank you so much, Sheikh, for your wonderful insights and all your knowledge that you've given us all tonight. And inshallah, again, we hope to have you back. Both of you has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, dear viewers, for watching. It's been, again, another inspiring dialogue tonight. And I'm always blown away by our guest speakers, the Sheikh, and of course, you know, our, you know, special guests that come all the way and give them our time. That is really special for us to obviously take some feedback and look within, reflect, and inshallah make some small adjustments and changes so that we can do more for the community. We can sort of, we're only raising these topics to make it easier for ourselves and the rest of the ummah for us to live in harmony and with faith. And inshallah, with all of this dialogue, we're only trying to raise issues to create better outcomes for us all. I hope that you have an amazing evening, and inshallah we will be back with another episode next week. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.